We may use what you've said as a quote, but we're not going to attribute that quote to anybody specific. We're gleaning, oh, I have to say, okay, meeting being recorded. Okay. We're gleaning information, and while we might use something that you say, we're not going to say, so-and-so said this on January 24th at 9:04 or whatever. So we have that. And I'm going to be flipping through, because in my mind, I'm launching into the conversation and I need to pay attention to our housekeeping. And Diane, Michelle, jump in if I miss something. So the consent and confidentiality. We also try to get the demographics of the folks that we're learning from. And there will be in chat an online form that you can go in to complete the demographics survey. We also want to encourage you to take the community health assessment survey. And Michelle, maybe you can put a link to that in chat as well. So you get to see kind of the whole ball of wax is in the survey. But with the community conversations, we wanted to do a deeper dive and kind of have that human element of one-on-one. Now, our questions are much broader, of course, and it's really important that we hear from you. I know we like to say nothing about us without us, and this is in that vein of, you don't want others to decide what you need. And so we're also going to use a technique called step up and step back. We want you to speak up, but if somebody else is trying to speak, we want to give everybody some space. There's no wrong answers, and everybody's opinion is valuable. And I see Michelle has put the link in for the community health assessment survey. So we want to talk about what a healthy community looks like to everybody. And, that could be a little bit different for everyone. And community is a very broad term. You can think of it in many ways. It might be a community of people who culturally are similar to me, or it could be your neighborhood. It could be parents from your child's school. So adjust the word community to what fits in your world. We have about 60 minutes, so we have 6 questions. So we're going to focus on each question for around 10 minutes. And we are offering $25 gift cards at the conclusion. And the ARC has graciously consented. They will keep the gift cards. And of course, there will be paperwork because we have to demonstrate that we did give away the gift cards. So there will be some paperwork, and the ARC, probably you, Janelle, maybe, will be the lucky ones. They'll have them there for you to go and pick up after next Tuesday. So when I'm going to go drop them off. So I just wanted to be sure that I mentioned that. And I am going to, Michelle, Diane, did I skip anything before I dive into the questions?
You covered everything. I'm just wondering, do we want to just allow just a couple minutes for our participants to complete the demographic survey, the first link that we included in the chat? That way we've got that covered.
Sure, we can do that. And folks, while y'all are doing that, I'm going to find out how to share my screen. I mean, I know how to share my screen, but I got to find the screen that I want to share.
It may take me a little longer because I'm going to complete the survey for the 2 other people who are here with me.
Okay.
So give me a chance to do that. Okay.
So, and now that I'm screen sharing, I can't see anybody. So you'll have to speak up because I can't Can't see any reactions. Yeah, the demographic survey is to give us a general idea. You know, statistics can be everything. And the whole purpose is for us to find out where we need to focus effort and resources. And so every little bit of information that we have will help us achieve that goal. So Jan, how about if you tell me when you've finished, and that will kind of lead me to know when we should get started.
Okay, done.
Okay. And everybody, if you're still working on that, we'll see if you finish that up, and I don't know, maybe give a thumbs up, which I can't see while I'm sharing my screen, so I'll have to ask somebody to let me know that. Okay. Are we all good?
Think so.
Okay. Okay, our first of the 6 questions is, what does a healthy community in the greater Prince William area look like to you? And we discussed how community can mean different things to different people, and kind of depending on its context. But in general, some things to think about is what makes our community a healthy place to live? Um, what what could we do to make it a more healthy place to live? What places could make our community healthier, and what would you like to see more of? And we're going to dive into some of those a little bit more in the next questions. But somebody tell me, just in your idyllic, happy world, what does a healthy community look like in the greater Prince William area? And greater Prince William area refers to the county and the cities of Manassas and Manassas Park.
Okay, for me, it would be everything is inclusive and accessible.
Yeah, accessibility is a big one.
It's huge because it was the same. A couple of us here use Kaiser and the new center over in Caton Hill. It's a beautiful facility, but they didn't talk to people with disabilities when they built it because the elevators, you have to go through the whole building. It's all the way in the back before you have the elevators. So if you have a physical disability, it makes it difficult.
Yeah. Sela, Diane, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. And if you want to pop something into chat, and it could be, as you relate to this question, or maybe a family member or friends or neighbors, if you're thinking of them, what looks like a healthy place to live?
In addition to what Jan said, I would add on transportation services. that's biggie. There are, if you, and I know that OmniRide has, done a lot. They're good at a lot of what they do, but the bus routes, for whatever reason, have not necessarily been approved. Um, and then and then if you don't like that, there are some options. Um, Greater Greater Prince William Healthcare. I don't know if I had that name right, but where there is the van service. I don't know. Michelle might have a better idea of what I'm trying to explain, but it's like the van service that within a certain radius of the health department areas, um, they can get you and take you to where you need to go. There are some vets taking vets type of programs and things like that, but it's challenging to navigate how to get to and from unless you have a family member or a person who takes you, um, or if you can drive yourself. But um, I think that it would be, I know that there are some options through version stuff, but it's challenging for folks who might be pretty independent, but they need a little extra help. Either, there's a communication situation, whether it's a language or an impairment, or processing things, stuff like that. It can be a little bit challenging to actually get an Uber, a Lyft, a cab, whatever. Um, so I think transportation, I would add that on to what Janet said too.
Janelle, did you want to say something? Yes, we have. Why don't you move up here a little bit so you can be closer to the microphone? You don't have to move your chair if you don't want. Just stand here and talk to it. Go ahead.
I know you can't really see me, but I was just gonna say, for those who have probably both, like in the between of having a developmental disability, or also between both ID and developmental, or even having a split disability, or having more than one disability, making sure that they have the most accessibility that in their terms of what they define as being, um, having their impact of what they deem as being right for their health, and knowing what's right for them, and how to make sure that they are getting the needs that they need within their daily commutes or their way of, doing what they need to do to find the kind of life that they want. And for me, it will be just getting the transportation I get with my service and just making sure that I can get my health taken care of, mental, get my hopefully getting therapy and counseling, and just kind of get more, have the potential for more growth in the work, but also making sure that I'm taking care of myself the way I need to.
Ashley, do you have anything?
I was just gonna say access to more affordable services, especially to those who don't qualify for Medicaid, like access to ABA therapy or speech therapy, physical therapy, stuff like that. It gets really expensive for families, and not everyone qualifies for Medicaid, but they also can't afford these services either. And another thing would be access to food, like having more food drives. I know Prince William County Schools during COVID, they had a lot of food drives for students. Since there was no school, a lot of kids, you don't know if, any kids were having food for the weekend or the week since they weren't going to school. They didn't have that free lunch. They didn't have that free breakfast anymore. So, especially during summer or spring break or winter breaks, having those food drives really help those kids.
I think they have
Okay.
um, and there are some school social workers who have things available during the school year. And then there's the chow wagon, and then the farmers markets, they take the SNAP um, payments, but then you come back to either transportation or accessibility, whether it's, verbal or physical or cognitive. So, and then, healthy choices, things like that. Um, can I add one more thing that might not necessarily go directly in this thing? One thing that I've noticed is with medications, my mom, she lived in Maryland, and the pharmacy near her, they were able to um, make the bubble packs for her. So Monday's meds were already pre-sorted and pre-packaged. It's been I haven't been able to find that here locally. Maybe it's here, I just don't know. But um, and I don't really know what be able to be done about that. But having the pills pre-sorted, daytime, morning, night, whatever, I think that could potentially go a really long way, whether it be people with disabilities of any age or someone who's older or has some manual dexterity concerns. There's a whole gazillion reasons for that to be a really helpful option. I just don't know if it's really feasible or something that this would be able to address. So,
Those are all good points. It's funny you say that. I've often thought I wish I had those bubble packs for my vitamins, so I wasn't opening and closing jars all morning. So,
opening jars is a big deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it is. Those were all excellent points, and um, you know, provided some insight and ideas of what we could use more of and where we could do better. Let's move on. Unless anybody has something burning to say right away about question one. Um, what are your community's strengths, such as what are some good things, some programs or people in your community who help others? And we could start with the ARC, but
And-
from there, what are some programs that you're aware of that are helpful? Programs that are helping people to stay healthy. You mentioned some transportation programs.
Um,
So OmniRide.
OmniRide is good. That helps. They do have, they've been good about, I think there have been some changes in the past year or two about their, how they do their rides, but they do have accessibility. They also offer a community outreach
Yes.
opportunity upon request. I think that is probably underutilized, in my
Yes.
opinion. And I think it could be an awesome opportunity. They also OmniRide makes it pretty easy, really, to get your disability discount card. Um, Metro, like the larger Metro, is a little more challenging, but it's still there. Um, I think that from a disability perspective, this um, is more veteran related, but there is vets driving vets or something like that um, option. There's the Prince William Health um, District thing, that the van um, that takes people, honestly, parents and family members. I mean, without
Mhm.
them to take people to where they need to go, you would not have utilization of healthcare services. So, the families, and um, sometimes some employers will um, provide, I don't know technically if it's called a benefit, but allow family member, if they have someone with disability, they can use leave for that to take them to doctor's appointments, things like that. So there is some employment flexibility for families. I'll add on SNAP for the food stamps. It's a very quick and easy process. It goes usually within a few days. I don't know how it is as far as I know that there's either online or telephone, and so I don't know how it would function, how quickly it would function for those who might have difficulty with that. They would probably again have to have a family member or somebody help.
Yeah.
Those are
right now. What other thoughts?
those are all great ideas. And when you meant truly community, when you mentioned family and friends that are helping with transportation, and when people are isolated and they don't have that support network, that makes it difficult.
ACTS, yeah, sorry, I was talking over. ACTS is another great community service, as is SERVE. ACTS and SERVE.
Yes.
Um,
I'm sorry.
they've been around. ACTS has been around, started out of Dumfries Methodist Church many, many years ago, which was my home church at the time. So, yeah.
And and I know there are some programs, and we all struggle with getting the word out about who does what, as far as resources. Does anybody have anything else to add to all of those good points about community strengths that we have?
I think let's add in the CSB support coordinators. I know that they've got a very, very large caseload. Let me.
Yes.
They have a very, very large caseload, and
And you said CFC?
No.
CSB,
Community
CSB.
Services
Oh
Corps.
yeah, CSB. Oh yeah.
I think that for those who don't qualify within the ID range, they're just a few answers, above on the test. They still need help. If they have the label of autism, they can go through the CSB support coordinators. But since this is a strength question, hold off until
Yeah.
hold off before I add the rest. But I think that with CSB mental health and CSB IDGD services, it's great that they're there and they're very helpful. The caseload just is very, very high.
Yes. One thing I will say, I grew up in this county. My family moved here when I was a year old. I'm a product of all the county schools. I've been a long, long time. And I can say this, it has grown so much, and there are so many more services than there ever were in the 1950s. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
Good progress.
So I have to look at it comparatively. I
Wow.
can, and
the population's much bigger.
well, yeah.
And
I mean, Bennyville Road does not look anything like it did when we were growing up.
before we move to question number 3, I wanted to talk a little bit about places. Are there places where people can go to feel healthy and safe? And well, I'm not going to enter what that means to me. Is going to be different than what it means to other people. But I was thinking specifically of physical locations, parks,
I could add
libraries.
Parks and
Parks.
Rec.
Yeah.
They've got the inclusion option. They have one staff person to run the entire county inclusion program. So I would
Our
say,
recreation program does probably 150 or more events every year.
yeah, you guys. There's also within the schools, but the unified sports, which is a
Yes.
sub part, a special Special Olympics. Then there's the regular Special Olympics. I would say is the Buddy Club still going on in Manassas? I think that's
Manassas
still,
Park, it is, yes.
okay. The Buddy Club, I know there's like top soccer and stuff. What are the other
Yes.
ones?
Whew,
I can't think of all the names right
I
now, but
can't either, but there are some
Well,
sports
but
leagues.
we do, yeah, we do have them. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and
then
Hellwood Park has an accessible,
baseball field.
yeah, they added that, I think,
The Miracle
maybe?
Field, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm missing something. But
Okay. Okay. Well, let's move on to question 3. And what challenges affect health, such as what problems make it hard for people in your community to stay healthy? And you have touched on many of them, but think about big or small problems like laws or decisions in the area.
Executive orders, can we add those? I don't want to get political, though.
go for it, Jan. What?
I'm just saying some of the
you know-
executive orders that came out this week are so anti-immigrant that
Mm,
that is going to put a huge barrier.
okay, I see what you're saying.
Let's think about things, so things in our community that make it harder or easier to be healthy. We mentioned transportation, housing, planning. Do we need?
I think language is a biggie, honestly. I think within the school system, they're required to translate into 9 different languages. Um, this county and this Nova area, there are a lot of different languages, and a lot of times you'll see either their kids are translating, or sometimes, as we've probably all done at some point in time, we'll say we understand something when maybe we understand half of it, but we don't understand the nuance, or we don't
Right. So,
understand how it's being, even asking to rephrase it sometimes, people aren't necessarily comfortable asking it to be rephrased.
right. So health literacy
Yeah.
is a big thing.
Well,
What
food
about
insecurity.
jobs, housing, planning, when new communities are put together?
I think there are resources for jobs. Others can chime in, obviously, but I know there's DARS that helps folks with jobs. There's the Employment Commission. Nova has a lot of the different certification programs. The schools, some of them have career counselors. There's
So are there any challenges to accessing those?
Yes.
yes.
There's a wait list. There's a wait
Um,
list for everything, and for people with disabilities,
Okay.
for services. There's a
when
wait
we
list for
think-
waivers. There's a wait list at DARS. There's a wait list everywhere.
And when we think about laws, we often think about bigger government sorts of laws, but there's community types of, more local things that, I think we have more power to provide input. Are there any rules or decisions in our community that you think help or hurt people's health?
I'm not real strong in that area, so I think going back to transportation and language, I would say I don't know if there are
Okay.
the laws and decisions, but I would say those are some things that are extremely challenging for an extremely wide variety of people, because our community here is so incredibly diverse that and there's a wide range of abilities and economic statuses. So I'd say language and the transportation. Jan, you're better with the laws and stuff than I am. So
Well,
I am trying not to listen to everything right now.
so anybody else want to chime in, or again, you can put information in chat, and maybe you are. I can't see.
Yeah.
I can't see the chat.
Janelle, you had another comment? Okay.
I feel like when you said it waitiness, like a waiting list for those disabilities, whether they need help.
Janelle, it's hard to hear you.
So that's why I asked you to move forward a little bit. Okay.
I feel like for those like myself and anyone else, the friends I have, people I know from groups I've been with, and take time away from doing or wanting, no matter. But what I'm saying is, with certain things that I'm joined and a part of, associated with different art other art chapters I'm a part of. I feel like what I'm trying to say is that some things that you need that is accessible, you may not know like that this is a way of how you can have a better system of how things are arranged and when you should do it, and that you don't have to feel like you don't have somewhere where you can look to. But then there is waiting lists, and that's what makes it hard. It makes it hard because the more you need something, it's not that some people is like they have other reason why. But for me, there's things I'm gonna want like now because I'm older. But then by the time I'm getting to this age, I'm like, I should already have this. And then I'm like, what is it that you do now that I know I'm doing? I'm working to try to have a better plan. But I just don't want the thought of knowing other people with disability are different, and each person with disability has a different way of how they can take care of for themselves. But with accessibility and having services, it's not easy now, because of the things I get. I don't have it so much as somebody who may or may not work, because I work full time. And I feel like, it's just when you have a disability, whether you are so high functioning or you might be not as high functioning as someone who can perform more than myself and their daily things that they do. I feel like for me, this may not be what you were talking about, but I wanted to say that because the subject where you bring it up in the meeting, it's just, I feel like it's taken me, anytime it does take me longer, but it's
Yeah,
just
no, absolutely.
a way of how I need to go about make sure I get these services that I'm going to need. And I am trying to, based on things I learned from the Circle Support Conference, to use for me, for my own self.
Well, and I think one thing that Janelle is talking about is that there are services for people with severe disabilities, but a lot of times there aren't many things out there for people who aren't as severe. You know what I mean?
Yes, and
The services aren't there.
And there are laws that are not local laws that we may not necessarily be able to affect or change right here, but as far as like age,
I don't think it has anything to do with the law. Well, only very indirectly.
Well, there's decisions about age cutoffs for certain services
Yes.
and things like that. So those are all things to keep in mind when we're looking at resources.
Bonnie, could you add in for that too, that and this is nationwide, and probably nothing that can be done about it here specifically, but it's really hard to find good, healthy, affordable food that can, whether it's related to diabetes or whether it's related to high blood pressure, everything has a lot of sugar and fat, and if it doesn't, then either it's no longer stocked because I guess nobody's buying it except me, but really expensive.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't directly, but
Hold your thought. We can add it at the end. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. Those were good points about challenges and problems, and some ideas on maybe how we can help the decision makers be more educated. Now I'm going to move on to question number 4. who has the most problems because of these things? In other words, who is the most impacted in our communities? And we talked about that somewhat with the languages. Um, but if you just want to elaborate on that, like,
I would probably lean toward not necessarily low income, but low income. Um, and those who might not have, like those who might not have the, say, hourly workers, folks who can't necessarily, you know, people who don't have paid sick leave, to take time off, people who don't drive. I think the language impacts here, but a lot of folks with the language concerns, they do have either, a kid or a family member, or they have their own language-based community where they have someone to help out too. Um, I don't know what else is out. I'm trying to think.
well,
That could,
people with children, it's hard to
yeah,
go if you don't have daycare.
Yes.
that's a big deal. Portable daycare. That's
And I will throw in another thing. If you have a child with disability, it's almost impossible because most childcare centers do not accept children over 12, maybe 13. And if the child has a disability, they are supposed to be able to serve them, but they don't. They find reasons. So you have our two centers, which are both waitlisted, and here again, so there's definitely childcare is an issue. Children with disabilities
adding to the childcare. I think
and the
the
cost.
yeah, the getting medical providers, medical services that can that, because a lot of times if you have someone with a disability, there's a good chance it's going to take longer for that appointment. And get in the door, fill out your paperwork, here's your 10 minutes, go do this, go do that. Yeah, that's a nice theory, but it I mean, it doesn't even work all the time for the regular run-of-the-mill person, much less trying to get in
Yeah.
a family member of any age, honestly, of any age.
Yeah.
What
Older
about,
people.
I was just going to ask that, Jan, what about older people with, ID or DD? Um,
Housing is huge, and that really affects health. Finding providers willing to serve the population. If they're what we have group homes, as you know, we have like 17 group homes. They're all small. And I will say they're all good neighbors. They're all over the county. And we have, I think, at least one in city of Manassas. But we have transportation. We can provide their transportation, but it's finding those providers who take Medicaid and who understand disabilities, autism, intellectual, and don't condescend. That's a big, there's so much condescension that really bothers me.
I'm going to just interject another thought here. What about and I'm going to mess it up, LGBTQIA? Did I get that right? Imagine someone who, also may have a developmental disability coping with all that. And I just wonder what kind of resources are out there.
I'll be honest, if you have an intellectual disability on top of it, I don't know. I would hope that we would be inclusive and welcoming and be a resource to help.
In the
But-
IT world, I mean, there are a lot of people, it's not, I mean, it's more openly discussed than it was in the past, but there still are, within the IDDD, the
Yeah.
perception that, sexuality that doesn't really apply. Um, which is,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
one thing I'd add on too is the pay rate for anything. I'll just put anything. Um, Waivers, attendant care. I don't know what the pay rate is for your group homes, Jan, but I'm sure that there's some turnover, and
We actually have one of the lowest rates of turnover
that's because
um,
you rock.
in this area, but it's still it's not as high as it should be. We got a big raise a couple of years ago through the state, and we've been told that there will be more coming this year. We don't know for sure, but that's huge. Our childcare centers are desperate for providers.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's just,
our group homes are pretty well staffed.
that's awesome. That's awesome. The what is being asked of caretakers is, if
Yeah.
you look at what truly is needed and what's being asked, a lot of times it's so hard to find the home health aides, the attendant care, the waiver
Yes.
funding is
Oh, it's ridiculously low.
low, especially for what's being asked. So I think not that money solves everything, but sure doesn't hurt. So
Okay. Well, those are
Money, so that money's huge then.
those are really good. Unfortunately, we gotta
I
move
know.
on to number 5. I mean, because we could talk about all of these topics for hours and hours, but let's go to number 5. What can we do to make the community healthier? What actions could improve health in our community? And you just said money. Um,
But
funding
that's not necessarily local. Some of it can be, but a lot of our funding comes from waivers, and that's state and federal.
I think state's a big deal too. I think that there
Yeah.
are some things that can be local funding that helps. Local things like, Parks and Rec is funded. It would be actually nice if Veronica, who does the inclusion program at Parks and Rec, at a minimum had an assistant. That would be really, really nice.
Me too.
Yeah, you too, and Jan, of course, and I think that even though I said money doesn't solve everything, it doesn't. But if there could be
It helps.
just even just some transportation, some CSB support coordinators, have they know a lot of stuff. They have a lot of access to information and stuff. Um,
Well, can I say something, Diane? Not as much as they used to.
yeah,
They bring
yeah,
on so many people who don't even know. We've been around 60 years and they don't even know about us. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is some turnover, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely at CSB. Yeah.
Yeah, and part of that is caseload, and part of it is that when you have someone coming to you and saying, "Hey, I'm going through a really difficult, challenging time, and I need help," and there's not a lot out there, that can be pretty depressing, and it's hard to stay in that type of position. So in order to do that, there needs to be a way to make that position attractive, and not that it would solve everything, but it would definitely help, because then you can call and say, "Hey, I'm stuck on something. Can you help me figure it out?" And at least they have a single point of contact. Whereas right now, it does not completely patchwork, but there are definitely some patchiness things going on.
Mm.
I don't know if that made sense or not. Hopefully that.
Yeah. I really, the Coalition for Human Services, I think could do a lot more to make people aware of what's out there. It's changed leadership so often. I think that things have been lost with the change in leadership.
It'll be a matter of the consistency again of keeping
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
in a position so that you can actually develop that really strong foundation
Mhm.
so that next time there is a turnover, that foundation is strong enough to be able to survive through a change in the staff.
And remember, folks, you can put comments in the chat as well.
Yes.
And does anybody else want to chime in here about how do we make our community healthier?
Did you want to add something to that?
Yeah.
Janelle wants to make another comment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But I was just gonna say that people with disabilities feel like that they are accepted and that they have a voice and they shouldn't be treated as if because of their disability limitations that they're a burden and that they should be treated as so and not given this type of care that they ask for, that they know they're trying to make for themselves because of the things that limit them and when they're maybe not
Everybody has
just
limitations.
processing
So,
and
yeah.
limitations, but to do what they need, to try, be more respectful and understanding of the fact that some people they want life like yours. Is what I've always advocated in my group, but they are just not that they're not this, they're just not like that regular people, but knowing that people who are neurodivergent, not neurotypical are not the same, but they are two people and they should be counted in any kind of talks or this talk and be given things that they need to make their day and make their so on their end they can make a safe
Well, you could,
make it safe and make it easier for them and so that they don't have to keep calling or going to someone to help and that they can go to things themselves, make sure that they are they are motivated and that they know that they can see the bright side in the tunnel and that they can do things for themselves. So to eliminate these kind of concerns to other people who may not want to help them.
Yeah.
And that people who are trying to help them, but they get overweight of themselves, just see that they don't have to, that they do can have a light on them. Because I know sometimes with me and myself, I go to one person, another person, and I tell my people that are close to me that are not family, and it's like I don't want to do something like that. Go to one person, tell them things that they don't need to know, and then causing a situation that doesn't need to start, and then feeling like, well, I want to do this, but I kind of feel like for me, for some reason, like I need someone to help me instead of saying, you can go ahead and do this yourself. You know what to do. You want to ask, but do what you feel you can do at the rate that you can do it.
Amen.
and what I hear is you want to be
There's
Want to be
But I'm happy
included
that-
and accepted.
in the mind,
valued
like,
and
inclusion,
empowered.
having inclusion, self-inclusion, but also initiative. I mean, that I have the self-intuition that I'm thinking positive and that I can let my negative whatever thoughts like those are go and I can change where I'm going in a way where I'm definitely making a way to grow and prevent anything that doesn't need to be in for me right now. It's my journey.
I will say Janelle is very active with the ARC of Virginia with a group of self-advocates. So
And you do have to be a self-advocate in this world and look for ways, to be empowered and to feel valued. So Janelle, thank you. I can assure you your input is valued here. So we're going to move on to question number 6.
Bonnie,
Yes. Oh,
we
yeah.
did have something in the chat. Diane shared. We also need to address, I think POA. Do you mean power of attorney, Diane, / exploitation?
Yeah.
Mm.
Also possibly increase Meals on Wheels access.
yes,
And CSB mental health for ID identifying within schools. Currently, it's only for non-ID.
ID is intellectual disability.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, I was typing and listening at the same time. I was like, let me get this in quick before I forget it.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit, because I don't know what all of the I want to make sure that I understood the acronyms.
So and I know that we're running toward the end of time, but one of the things that I've seen within CSC provides a mental health resource within schools, and I'm blanking on the name right now. I think it might be a New Horizons counselor or something like
Yes,
that.
New Horizons.
New Horizons. So I've gotten mixed information on whether or not that New Horizons people can actually work with folks with ID. I've been told that they cannot because you have to have different certification. That's, okay, but
But what if you have both, right?
yeah, because and even if you don't have both, or let's say there are mental health things that happen within your life. It could be, I know school counselors have mental health training and mental health counseling available, but going back to massive caseload, and they can and have and do provide some support and help, but when mental health within the ID world, it's kind
Might
of
look different.
it's lumped in too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, mental health doesn't really happen in the ID world, and yeah, thank you for that,
Yeah,
Jan.
sure.
Yes. And so when asking if someone needs help with, well, pick something, any topic, then it's really hard in general in the general community outside of school even, but there's just not that same resource available, and you can't put everything on the school counselor, you can't put it all on the social worker, and you've got the psychologist, but it's not the same as a mental health professional talking with
Yeah.
people, and sometimes it's limited only to substance abuse, which is
Yeah.
good.
Even in the private community, there are wait lists for psychologists, whether or not you have an intellectual disability. There's wait lists everywhere. And
And
people
there's-
with intellectual disabilities might not do well with an online virtual session.
Yeah, and the Reach is out there. I don't know, Michelle, if you're familiar with Reach or not. Are you familiar with Reach at all?
Yeah.
Ask Jan about Reach, because that's going to be like a good 10-minute or 15-minute conversation.
Now, I'm not going to go on with it. It's the crisis interventions
Yeah.
service. And it's,
Talk with her
I will say
offline.
it's lacking a little bit in this area.
There's been some challenges, and so
Definitely challenges.
Jan
Well,
can
I
fill you in.
there's more that we can talk about than we have time to talk
Yes.
about.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to jump to number 6. Here's kind of where the rubber meets the road for us health department folks. How can the health department connect better? Do you have any advice for our local health district for getting community input and educational materials and programs and services? Because we have tried very diligently from our perspective to reach out to people that are difficult to reach out to and get their input, and particularly from groups that often have a smaller voice in the community. And please share how you think we can do that better. Billboards, biplane banners, what's it going to take?
Going to the schools.
Going through the schools, Yasmin said.
Thank you, Yasmin.
I'm hosting a information night at the schools for parents. If you put the information out there, parents will come like to school meetings in the evenings. A lot of people don't have access to internet, and sometimes they can't do Zoom meetings, and sometimes going in person can do the difference.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody's smiling face. Oh, what happened here? I thought I was. There we go. Yeah, since
Um,
we're on our last question. So schools, um,
um, connect with the school social workers, the school counselors, and then the transition specialists in the
mhm.
school, and um, maybe possibly have a table at the transition fair every year. Do a presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, the parent liaisons, unfortunately, I will say Prince William County Schools makes it very hard for outside groups to share their information anymore.
Yeah.
We, had a grant, Diane, through the Arc of the United States. We were trying to get Hispanic families to get involved in learning more about special education.
Yep.
And some of the parent liaisons, my intern here, wonderful intern Yasmin, got the names of all of them. I emailed them and said, well, this is great, but we can't share this with parents.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Some did.
And
So how can we make it easier to work with other groups? Now, Bonnie, you're going to be at the Parents as Partners conference also, right?
Yes, we are working
Yeah.
on that.
And also, you will be at the Transition Fair
I'm working on
in
that
March,
too.
working on both. Yeah, because I think it's a good idea,
good.
particularly the Parents as Partners, because that's February 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
The other, I don't know if this was, is there a way, is there a way to somehow, this might be too state level, but I send people to Peetsie a lot that have school age kids.
To
I don't
where?
PEATC,
Oh,
Peetsie.
Pizzi. Yeah, Pizzi's wonderful.
I don't know if there's a way, they have a Latino outreach person. I don't know if there's a way to even have PT have like a link to the health department or something, or a mention of accessing services through. I'm not really sure if there is a way to do that. I don't know, but mean, I think Formed Families Forward might also.
Formed Families Forward shares a lot. Are you familiar
Yeah.
with them,
Mm.
Bonnie? Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Kelly's wonderful.
So,
But Pizzi, there are a lot of good people. Now they are in process of reorganization.
Oh no, don't mess it up.
I know it was doing well, but I connect a lot with Tina Norris there. If anybody from the health department wants some of these contacts, just pop me an email and I can.
oh, I'll pop you an email.
I know, or call.
So what I'm hearing is we could do more outreach to organizations that are already providing some services and be able to help share those resources with the community. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to piggyback
if
and
you
talk.
send me things, I'm more than willing to share, as Diane knows.
Yeah, I will too. You know that.
Yeah, Diane does a great job at sharing.
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I think
Question for clarification, for Peetsie, do you mind, Diane, putting that in the chat? For those of us who don't know about them and what it stands for?
I can do that, Diane, if you don't mind. I don't mind.
And then also, I
great
want
things.
to make sure that I didn't misspeak when I said about the POA exploitation. I'm not sure if we spoke about that.
Just a short, so power of attorney, a couple things can happen with it, and I'll try to make it a short version. Anyway, it's one of my topics that's important to me. So power of attorney is actually pretty easy to get, and all power of attorney does is confirm the person is who they say they are. It doesn't confirm that the person is able to make their own decisions. It doesn't confirm the person. It doesn't really confirm anything. It solely confirms that the person is who they say they are. So what ends up is it's somewhat easy for the person, whether it be someone who's sure has a cognitive impairment, it's relatively easy to have the person sign for power of attorney for this other entity to pretty much have the ability to do anything, get in medical records, change finances, all sorts of stuff. So it's happens a lot in nursing homes. It happens. It's fairly easy to do, and I know it's a much bigger thing than just the county can take care of. But there definitely is, in my opinion, and offline I can give you some more information if you want it. But there definitely is, I think, in my opinion, a high risk of exploitation with the way that it's currently set up. If you do want more information, I'm happy to talk to you offline. It'll take a bit of time. Did that answer
Okay.
your question, Michelle, hopefully, or give you a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Powers of attorney, we also recommend with families who have children with disabilities that they don't necessarily just go for guardianship, that they can look at powers of attorney instead as an option. It's less intrusive.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that was a whole lot. And Diane, I know you were taking copious notes, and Michelle, thank you for keeping an eye on chat so we didn't miss anything. And I just want to thank everyone for your participation in this. And I'll just a quick personal aside. My nephew, who is 34 now, has autism. He has his first girlfriend, so we're very, very excited.
I'm going to
for-
stop recording.
Okay. Yeah, we can